The cathedral fell silent as the video began to play, projected onto the wall behind the altar where, moments ago, Eliza Harmon had been preparing to say "I do" to the man she'd loved for 7 years. Instead of the romantic montage the 200 guests expected, the screen showed her fiancé, Julian, entering a hotel room, closely followed by not one but 2 women. The timestamp in the corner read 48 hours ago. The audio was crystal clear. "Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything?" asked Cassidy, Eliza's own sister. "Not a clue," Julian replied, loosening his tie. "She's too busy with last-minute wedding details. And what about after?" The second woman, Rebecca, Eliza's maid of honor since childhood, stepped into frame, already unbuttoning her blouse. "What happens then?" Julian laughed, a sound Eliza once found endearing but now made her stomach turn. "Then we keep being careful, like we have been for the past 6 months. In the cathedral, a collective gasp rippled through the guests. Julian froze at the altar, his face draining of color as he spun toward the screen. Cassidy, seated in the front row as family, dropped her bouquet. Rebecca, standing opposite the groomsmen as maid of honor, swayed on her feet. Only Eliza remained perfectly still, her wedding dress a river of white satin pooling around her, veil still covering her face. She had not moved since pressing play on the remote now clutched in her hand. When she finally lifted her veil, her eyes were dry, her voice steady. "I think we need to have a different kind of ceremony today." 6 months earlier. Eliza woke to the smell of fresh coffee and the distant sounds of Julian moving about their kitchen. Sunlight streamed through the blinds, catching the diamond on her left hand. The engagement ring still felt new after 3 months, and she often found herself admiring the way it caught the light. At 32, Eliza had built a life many envied. A successful career as a conservation architect preserving historic buildings, a renovated brownstone in a desirable neighborhood, and now, a fall wedding to plan with the man she'd built her world around. Morning. "Beautiful!" Julian appeared in the doorway, 2 coffee mugs in hand. At 34, he looked like he'd stepped out of an upscale menswear ad, all tailored shirts and perfect jawline. His architecture firm specialized in modern, sustainable buildings. The perfect complement to her preservation work, they often joked. The caterer called. "They need final numbers by next week," he said, setting her coffee on the nightstand. "And your sister texted." "She's flying in this afternoon for the dress fitting," Eliza groaned. "I forgot that was today." Her relationship with Cassidy had always been complicated. 2 years younger and seemingly crafted from an entirely different genetic palette. Cassidy was the golden child with her blonde hair and effortless charm, while Eliza took after their father's side with darker features and a more reserved nature. "She's staying with us, right?" Julian asked, selecting a tie from the closet. "No, thank God. She booked a hotel. Said she didn't want to cramp our style before the wedding." Eliza sipped her coffee. "Rebecca's joining us at the fitting, though. Your trusty maid of honor," Julian smiled. The unbreakable trio back together. Rebecca had been Eliza's best friend since their freshman year of college. They'd been randomly assigned as roommates and formed an immediate bond that survived graduation, career changes, and Rebecca's divorce 3 years ago. When Julian proposed, asking Rebecca to be maid of honor had been a given. "Don't remind me," Eliza laughed. Last time those two were together, Cassidy convinced Rebecca to go skinny dipping in the Hamptons and they both nearly got arrested. Julian chuckled, kissing her forehead. "I've got a client meeting, then lunch with the developer for the Riverside project. Might be late." "I've got that preservation committee meeting after work anyway," Eliza replied. "See you for dinner?" "It's a date," he promised, already heading out the door. Eliza listened to his footsteps descending the stairs, followed by the front door closing. Only then did she allow herself to frown. That was the 3rd late client meeting this month. Julian's firm was thriving, but the hours seemed to be getting longer. Wedding stress, she told herself. Everything would settle after October. The bridal boutique was exactly as pretentious as Eliza expected, all champagne flutes and overeager consultants. Rebecca arrived first, punctual as always, her dark curly hair pulled into a professional bun that matched her corporate lawyer aesthetic. The bride-to-be. Rebecca embraced her. "How many dresses have you tried so far?" "7, Eliza sighed. "And I'm still torn between the last 2. "That's what today is for," Rebecca assured her, accepting a glass of champagne from a hovering consultant. "Besides, Cassidy will probably have very strong opinions that will make your decision easier. If only out of spite." As if summoned by her name, Cassidy burst through the door in a flurry of designer luggage and apologies. Flight was delayed. Traffic was insane. And would you believe they lost my bag? "Thank God it wasn't my carry-on with the good stuff," she announced, embracing Eliza and air-kissing Rebecca's cheeks. At 30, Cassidy worked as a luxury travel influencer. Her Instagram feed a carefully curated display of exotic locations and sponsored content. "You look amazing," Cassidy appraised Eliza. "Marriage agrees with you, and you're not even there yet. Let's see if you still think so after I've tried on these dresses," Eliza replied. 3 hours and numerous champagne refills later, Eliza had made her decision over a sleek, architectural gown that Rebecca described as perfectly you, and Cassidy deemed classic without being boring. "Ladies, we need to celebrate," Cassidy declared as they left the boutique. "My hotel has an incredible rooftop bar." "Some of us have work tomorrow," Eliza reminded her. "1 drink," Rebecca negotiated. "I want to hear more about this destination wedding Cassidy's promoting next month in Bali." "Fine," Eliza conceded. 1 drink? 1 drink turned into 3, and Eliza found herself genuinely enjoying her sister's animated stories and Rebecca's dry commentary. It felt good, the 3 of them together like this. When Eliza excused herself to the restroom, she returned to find Cassidy and Rebecca huddled close, their conversation stopping abruptly at her approach. "Everything okay?" she asked, sliding back onto her bar stool. "Perfect," Rebecca smiled, though it didn't quite reach her eyes. "Cassidy was just telling me about this gorgeous groomsman she met at a wedding in Santorini. Tall, dark, and definitely married," Cassidy confirmed with a theatrical sigh. "But he did have a single friend he offered to introduce me to." Eliza nodded, but a strange feeling lingered. There had been something in their posture, a certain tension that didn't match their casual words. She dismissed it as the champagne and cocktails clouding her judgment. Later that night, as she climbed into bed beside an already sleeping Julian, she checked her phone to find a text from Rebecca. "Thanks for today. Everything is going to be perfect, I promise." Eliza smiled, setting her phone aside. With her best friend and even her complicated sister by her side, what could possibly go wrong? 2 months before the wedding. Eliza's preservation committee meeting ran later than expected. The historical theater they were working to save had structural issues that would require significant additional funding, and the debate had been heated. By the time she left, it was nearly 9 o'clock. She texted Julian, "Just finished. Heading home now. Want me to pick up dinner?" When no response came, she assumed he was still in his own meeting. Deciding to surprise him, she stopped for takeout from their favorite Thai restaurant and headed home. The brownstone was dark when she entered, but Julian's keys hung on the hook by the door. "Julian?" she called, setting the food on the kitchen counter. No answer. She checked his office downstairs, UTU empty. Their living room also empty, though 2 wine glasses sat on the coffee table. One had a distinct smudge of red lipstick on the rim. Eliza didn't wear red lipstick. Her heart began to race as she climbed the stairs to their bedroom. The door was closed. From behind it came the unmistakable sounds of movement, a hushed laugh quickly stifled. Eliza stood frozen, her hand on the doorknob. Every instinct screamed at her to turn around, to pretend she'd never come home, never heard that laugh. But her fingers moved of their own accord, turning the knob, pushing the door open. The bedroom was dark except for the glow of Julian's phone screen illuminating the bed. He scrambled to sit up, clearly naked beneath the sheets. "Eliza, you're home early." His voice was too bright, too forced. "My meeting ended late, actually," she replied, her own voice sounding distant to her ears. Who's here, Julian? What? No one. I was just, A noise came from their ensuite bathroom. The slight creak of the window being opened. Eliza flipped on the bedroom light and strode toward the bathroom, pushing open the door before Julian could stop her. The bathroom was empty, but the window was indeed open, the shower curtain still swaying slightly. She looked out just in time to see a figure disappearing around the corner of the adjacent building. She turned back to Julian, who had hastily pulled on pajama pants. Someone was here. Eliza, you're being paranoid. I fell asleep waiting for you. I must have left the window open earlier. And the wine glasses downstairs? The lipstick? He faltered just for a second, but recovered quickly. I had a colleague over to discuss the Riverside project. She left hours ago? Which colleague? Eliza pressed. Vanessa from Urban Planning. The answer came too quickly, too rehearsed. Eliza wanted to believe him, wanted it so desperately that she found herself nodding, accepting his explanation despite the hollow feeling in her chest. I'm sorry, she said finally. It's been a stressful day. Julian's relief was palpable as he approached her, wrapping his arms around her. Let's eat whatever you brought home and forget this happened. She let him lead her downstairs, let him serve the now cold Thai food, let him kiss her temple and promise that everything was fine. But as she watched him wash the lipstick-stained wine glass, scrubbing it more thoroughly than necessary, something hardened inside her. For the first time, Eliza wondered if she really knew the man she was about to marry. The next morning, Eliza called in sick to work, something she never did out, and waited for Julian to leave for his office. The moment the door closed behind him, she began her search. His desk drawers revealed nothing unusual. His emails, which she accessed guiltily from their shared home computer, showed only work correspondence. His credit card statements showed typical expenses, so were restaurants. As the occasional gift for her, she was about to give up, to accept that perhaps she had overreacted, when she noticed Julian's iPad on his nightstand. He used it primarily for architectural renderings, and she rarely touched it. The passcode was her birthday, a detail that made her heart twist with affection, even now. She opened his messaging apps, finding nothing suspicious until she checked his recently deleted items. There, she found a thread of messages with a contact saved simply as C. The most recent exchange was from 2 days ago. Say, miss you already. Last night was worth the risk. Julian, always is with you. But we need to be more careful. Almost caught on last time. Key R says we're still good. She's keeping E distracted with wedding details. Julian, you're both incredible. 2 more months and we figure out next steps. Meanwhile, hotel tomorrow? R said she's keeping E late at the office. Julian, you're insatiable. PM, usual place. Eliza's hands trembled so violently she nearly dropped the iPad. C had to be Cassidy. And Rebecca? Her sister and her best friend, conspiring with her fiancé, behind her back. She scrolled through more deleted messages, finding cryptic exchanges dating back nearly 6 months to around the time they'd begun serious wedding planning. The betrayal was systematic, coordinated, and involved the 3 people she trusted most in the world. Eliza set down the iPad, a strange calm settling over her. The hurt would come later, she knew. Right now, she needed to be certain. She texted Rebecca. Crazy morning. Julian acting weird. Can we grab lunch? Need to talk. Rebecca's response came quickly, swamped with case prep. Rain check? Maybe tomorrow? Next, she texted Cassidy, who was supposedly in Miami for a sponsored hotel opening. Hey sis, how's Miami? Send pics. Cassidy replied with a sunlit selfie by a pool. Living my best life. Don't worry about a thing except your perfect day. The photo was resent. Cassidy's distinctive new highlights were visible. But Eliza noticed something in the background. A hotel logo on a towel, partially visible but recognizable to someone who had spent her career studying architectural details. It wasn't from Miami. It was from the Archer, a boutique hotel less than 2 miles from Eliza's brownstone. With hands that no longer shook, Eliza made 2 phone calls. The first was to a private investigator recommended by a colleague who had gone through a messy divorce. The second was to her office, explaining that she'd need to take some personal time off. "Is everything okay with the wedding?" her concerned assistant asked. "Actually," Eliza replied, "I think the wedding might need to be rescheduled." 1 week before the wedding. "I can't believe you're so calm, Tessa." Eliza's colleague and now confidant marveled as they reviewed the private investigator's report and video evidence. "If it were me, I'd be setting things on fire." "Oh, I'm not calm," Eliza corrected her. "I'm just channeling everything into planning." The evidence had been even worse than she imagined. Julian had been sleeping with both Cassidy and Rebecca, sometimes separately, sometimes together. The betrayal dated back 8 months, beginning shortly after their engagement. Text messages recovered by the PI showed the 3 of them laughing about Eliza's obliviousness, making plans for continuing their arrangement after the wedding, even discussing vacations they would take while Eliza thought Julian was away on business. Most devastating were the messages about the financial aspect of their betrayal. Julian had been funneling money from their joint wedding account, e-money. Eliza had contributed the majority of it to pay for hotel rooms and gifts for both women. "Have you decided what you're going to do?" Tessa asked. Eliza closed the folder containing printouts of text messages, hotel receipts, and photographs. "Yes, the wedding will proceed as planned." "What?" Tessa stared at her. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am." Eliza's smile was sharp. 200 guests, including Julian's entire family, my parents, our friends, and his business associates. The cathedral, the 5-course dinner, the string quartet, all exactly as planned. Eliza, except for one small addition to the ceremony. Eliza opened her laptop, displaying a carefully edited video. "What do you think?" Tessa watched in stunned silence as the footage played. When it finished, she looked at Eliza with new respect, and perhaps a touch of fear. "Holy shit," she whispered. "You're going to destroy them." "No," Eliza corrected her. "They destroyed themselves. I'm just making sure everyone knows it." The day before the wedding, Eliza attended her own rehearsal dinner with the serenity of someone who had found peace after a long struggle. She smiled as Julian toasted their future. She hugged Rebecca when she tearfully described their 15-year friendship. She even embraced Cassidy when her sister gave a surprisingly heartfelt speech about family bonds. Throughout the evening, she caught the 3 of them exchanging glances, little touches as they passed each other, inside jokes that only she now understood for what they were. Each moment only strengthened her resolve. After the dinner, as guests departed and Julian spoke with his parents, Rebecca pulled Eliza aside. "Is everything okay?" she asked, her concern appearing genuine. "You seem different tonight." "I'm just tired," Eliza replied. "And reflective. 15 years is a long friendship, isn't it?" Rebecca squeezed her hand. "The best years of my life." "Mine too," Eliza agreed. "You know what I admire most about you, Rebecca? Your loyalty." Something flickered in Rebecca's eyes. Uncertainty, perhaps even guilt. "Eliza! We should get some rest," Eliza interrupted, smiling warmly. "Big day tomorrow. Everything changes. Later, in the hotel suite she had booked for herself, insisting to Julian that she wanted to observe the tradition of not seeing each other before the wedding. Eliza made her final preparations. She reviewed her instructions with the audiovisual technician hired for the ceremony, confirmed arrangements with the cathedral administrator, and sent a series of scheduled emails set to deliver at precise times the following day. Finally, she opened the safe in her hotel room and removed the USB drive containing the video that would change everything. She slipped it into her purse, alongside the remote control the technician had provided. "Ready or not," she whispered to the empty room. The wedding day. The cathedral looked like something from a fairy tale, with delicate floral arrangements lining the aisle and soft light filtering through stained glass. Eliza sat alone in the bridal suite, already dressed in her architectural gown, veil arranged perfectly by the stylist who had just left. A knock at the door announced Rebecca, resplendent in her maid of honor gown. "You look incredible," she breathed. "Julian won't know what hit him." "That's the plan," Eliza replied with a small smile. Rebecca tilted her head. "Are you nervous? You seem so composed." "I've never been more certain of anything in my life." A slight frown crossed Rebecca's face, but she quickly replaced it with a smile. "Well, I should get back out there. Cassidy is already seated with your parents, and the guests are all arriving. 20 minutes until showtime." After Rebecca left, Eliza removed the remote from her purse and tested it once more, confirming the green light that indicated connectivity with the cathedral's audiovisual system. Then she took a deep breath and prepared to walk toward her future. One very different from what anyone else in the cathedral expected. The procession went exactly as rehearsed. The bridesmaids and groomsmen paired off, Rebecca taking her place at the altar, opposite Julian and his best man. Eliza's father waited outside the main doors, ready to walk her down the aisle. "You're radiant," he told her, his eyes damp. "I'm so proud of you." "Thank you, Dad," she replied, kissing his cheek. "Remember what I said earlier?" He nodded, confusion still evident in his expression. "No matter what happens in there, stay by my side." Exactly. The music swelled, Wagner's traditional bridal chorus, at her mother's insistence, and the doors opened. 200 faces turned to watch Eliza's entrance, expressions of admiration and joy greeting her as she began her procession. Julian waited at the altar, handsome in his tailored tuxedo, his smile confident as he watched her approach. Beside him, his best man beamed, while across the altar, Rebecca stood tall and proud in her burgundy gown. In the front row, Cassidy dabbed at her eyes theatrically, her blonde hair styled in an elaborate updo that had undoubtedly cost a fortune. Eliza reached the altar, kissed her father's cheek, and took her place beside Julian. The officiant, a distinguished older man with a resonant voice, began the ceremony. "Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today." Eliza let the familiar words wash over her, her hand closing around the small remote in her concealed dress pocket. She had positioned herself perfectly, angled so that when the moment came, she would be able to see the reactions of Julian, Rebecca, and Cassidy all at once. The officiant continued through his introduction, speaking of love and commitment, trust and honor. Each word felt like a needle to Eliza, but her expression remained serene behind her veil. "Before we proceed with the vows," the officiant announced, following the script Eliza had provided that morning, "the bride has prepared a special presentation to honor their journey together." Julian turned to her, confusion evident in his expression. "We didn't discuss a presentation," he whispered. "I wanted it to be a surprise," she replied softly, lifting her hand from her pocket. "Something to remind us of what brought us here today." She pressed the button on the remote, and the lights in the cathedral dimmed slightly as a projector hummed to life, illuminating the wall behind the altar. Soft music began to play, the same song that had been playing the night Julian proposed. For a moment, there were only romantic images, Eliza and Julian in happier times, vacation photos, candid moments captured over their 7 years together. The audience sighed appreciatively. Then the video changed abruptly. The timestamp appeared, showing 48 hours ago. The hotel room door opened and Julian entered. Followed closely by Cassidy and Rebecca, the cathedral fell silent. "Are you sure she doesn't suspect anything?" Cassidy's voice rang clearly through the cathedral's excellent sound system. "Not a clue," Julian replied, loosening his tie. "She's too busy with last-minute wedding details. And what about after?" Rebecca stepped into frame, already unbuttoning her blouse. "What happens then?" "Then we keep being careful, like we have been for the past 6 months." The video continued, showing intimate moments between the three that left no doubt about the nature of their relationship. Interspersed were screenshots of text messages, financial records showing money transferred from the wedding account to hotel payments, and finally, the three of them laughing as they mocked Eliza's wedding plans. She thinks this is her fairy tale. Julian's voice echoed through the stunned cathedral. She has no idea. Eliza finally lifted her veil, her eyes dry, her voice steady. I think we need to have a different kind of ceremony today. The chaos was immediate. Julian lunged for the remote in her hand, but Eliza's father stepped between them, his face a mask of cold fury. Rebecca stumbled backward, colliding with a floral arrangement that crashed to the floor. Cassidy attempted to flee down the aisle but found her path blocked by guests rising from their seats in shock and confusion. Eliza, I can explain, Julian began, his face ashen. I think the video explains everything perfectly, she replied, her voice carrying through the cathedral. But in case anyone missed it, let me summarize. My fiancé, my sister, and my maid of honor have been having an affair behind my back for the past 8 months. They've stolen money from our wedding fund to finance their betrayal. And they plan to continue this arrangement after today. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Julian's parents stood frozen in horror, while Eliza's mother had collapsed back into her seat, her hand pressed to her mouth. Eliza, please. Rebecca stepped forward, tears streaming down her face. This isn't what? Eliza cut her off. Isn't what it looks like? I think we're past that, don't you? 15 years of friendship and this is how you honor it? Cassidy, never one to accept defeat gracefully, found her voice. You were always so wrapped up in your perfect life, your perfect career, your perfect wedding. You never saw what was right in front of you. You're right, Eliza agreed calmly. I didn't see it. I trusted all of you. That was my mistake. Julian made one last attempt. Eliza, baby, we can work through this. It was just how it didn't mean anything. It meant everything to me, she replied, her composure finally cracking, tears filling her eyes. And that's why I had to do this. Not just for revenge, but because all these people deserve to know who you really are before they celebrated our marriage. She turned to address the stunned guests. I am so sorry for what you've witnessed today. The reception venue has been informed that the wedding is canceled. Your presence and your gifts are deeply appreciated, but I cannot in good conscience proceed with this ceremony. With that, Eliza lifted the skirt of her gown and walked back down the aisle, her father at her side. Behind her, the chaos intensified as Julian's business partners and clients began to leave in disgust, his reputation crumbling in real time. Rebecca called after her, voice breaking, Eliza, please. We can talk about this. Eliza paused at the cathedral doors, turning back one last time. You know what's ironic? If any one of you had come to me, been honest with me, I might eventually have forgiven you. But the 3 people I trusted most in this world conspired to humiliate me on what should have been the happiest day of my life. There's no coming back from that. She walked out into the sunlight, leaving behind the ruins of the life she had planned and the people who had destroyed it. 6 months later, Eliza set her luggage down in the airy Barcelona apartment and opened the balcony doors. The Mediterranean breeze carried the sounds of the city up to her, a symphony of life continuing despite personal catastrophes. Her phone buzzed with a text from Tessa. Landed yet? Check your email when you get a chance. You're going to want to see this. After the wedding that wasn't, Eliza had thrown herself into her work, accepting a prestigious international preservation project that had brought her to Spain for a 6-month assignment. The distance had been healing, allowing her to rebuild herself away from the wreckage of her personal life. She opened her laptop and found Tessa's email, containing links to several articles and social media posts. The first was a business news item. Prominent architect Julian Foster files for bankruptcy following client exodus. The article detailed how, after the viral video of his betrayal had circulated, someone at the wedding had recorded the projection on their phone. His clients had terminated contracts, leaving his once thriving firm in ruins. The second link was to Cassidy's Instagram, now set to public after she'd initially gone private following the scandal. Her follower count had plummeted, and her most recent post was a somber announcement that she was stepping away from social media to reflect on my choices. The comments section was brutal, with former sponsors publicly distancing themselves. The third link showed a legal notice. Rebecca had been passed over for partnership at her law firm, the official reason being concerns about ethical judgment. She had subsequently left the firm and, according to LinkedIn, was now working at a much smaller practice in a different city. Eliza closed the laptop, surprised by her own lack of satisfaction. The justice she had so meticulously orchestrated had been served, yet it brought her no joy. What it did bring, however, was closure. Her phone rang, her mother calling for their weekly check-in. "The apartment is perfect," Eliza told her after exchanging pleasantries. "And the restoration project is even more interesting than I expected." "Your father and I are so proud of you," her mother said, her voice warm. "Not just of your work, but of how you've handled everything." Eliza leaned against the balcony railing, watching the sun begin its descent toward the horizon. "I haven't always handled it well," she admitted. "There were some dark days, but you survived them," her mother pointed out. "And from what I hear, you're thriving." "I am," Eliza realized, somewhat surprised by the truth of it. "I really am." After ending the call, she received a notification of an email from an unfamiliar address. Opening it, she found a message from Julian. Eliza. "I've written this email 100 times in my head over the past 6 months. Nothing I can say will ever make up for what I did to you. The bankruptcy, the loss of my reputation, losing friends who stood by you, I deserved all of it and worse. I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it, but I wanted you to know that I understand now what I threw away. You were the best part of my life, and I destroyed that with my selfishness. I hope someday you find someone worthy of your trust. Someone better than I ever was. Julian." Eliza read the email twice, then deleted it without responding. Perhaps someday she would find it in herself to forgive him. But that day was not today. And when it came, it would be for her own peace, not for his. From the street below came the sound of music. A local festival was beginning, the joyful notes rising up to her balcony. On impulse, Eliza changed into a sundress and headed downstairs to join the celebration. As she merged into the crowd of strangers, their faces alight with pleasure in the simple joy of music and community, Eliza felt something unlock within her chest. The betrayal would always be part of her story, but it was no longer the defining chapter. Tomorrow, she would wake in this beautiful city and continue the work of preservation. Not just of historic buildings, but of herself. She would rebuild stronger than before, with a foundation of self-knowledge that could weather any storm. And perhaps most importantly, she would remember that endings, even devastating ones, made space for new beginnings. Her wedding day had not given her the future she'd planned, but it had given her something perhaps more valuable, the freedom to create a future entirely her own. The music swelled around her as night fell over Barcelona, and for the first time in months, Eliza found herself dancing.
And that wraps up today's story. Now we want to hear from you. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments, and let's see how far these stories reach. If this story moved you or gave you chills, give it a like, share, and subscribe for more powerful stories. One last thing, rate the story from 1 to 10 in the comments. Your feedback helps us bring you even better ones next time. Thanks for watching. We appreciate you being part of this storytelling journey.